Are we now seeing a ceasefire between Iran and Israel? And could this finally give a boost to the bull run for 2025? Or are we currently stuck in the summer slump? All this and much, much more in the video. Hey, welcome to Crypto Owl. Yes, it's another update video on this whole topic and what's going on right now. And of course, we'll start with the market update. And the market update, well, it could actually be more positive at the moment, but it is what it is. Let's take a look. We can see that the Bitcoin price has broken through here after the US attack on Iran over the weekend. This led the market to initially price in the expectation that there would be a prolonged conflict here and that the US would be fully involved. That was basically what got priced in here. As a result, we fell out of our regression channel here, even though we had already been outside of it twice before. Once above, once below. Yes, and of course, at some point you can also end this. Now, I've started a new one. And of course, the Bitcoin price is moving beautifully within it, just as we're used to with these regression channels. And right now it's moving sideways, because if you think about what happened here before this crash and where it's stuck now, it's basically right on a line here. If we take the red line from this regression channel, that's where Bitcoin is hanging. It wound its way along here, a bit below at times, a bit above at others. So in the end, it's a sideways phase for Bitcoin at the moment, and you can definitely underline that. And if you look at the stocks and so on, because right now the stock market is just opening, and I wanted to include that in the video, we can see that these have also started off positively since there's currently a ceasefire. We'll touch on that briefly in a moment. I don't want to drag out the Crypto Yule videos too much. What's interesting, of course, is what's happening here. For example, Tesla, which started off extremely positively yesterday because their robo-taxis for $4.20 really attracted a lot of attention at first. The DAX also made a positive jump, of course, since there's talk that we might have a ceasefire here. Whether we actually have one is, of course, the big question. And if there's no war, then naturally gold also drops, because why should I invest in gold, which is the safe haven during a war, if I can just say, hey, look, I'll go back into risk assets, which will probably yield higher returns. And that's exactly what we're seeing in the market right now. If we take a look at it, Bitcoin, well, it doesn't really know where it wants to go right now in the past hour. It briefly turned red, then went back up again. It's the start of the stock market. The stocks need to settle in. The futures, or rather the overnight actions in the stock market, if you called your broker and said, hey, I want to sell, those have to be processed first. So that's why things are a bit up and down at the moment. If we take a look at cryptocurrencies here, we see a mixed bag, very little red. And what is red? We're talking about fractions of a percent. Silver is also dropping a bit right now, which was to be expected because the safe havens are falling here, since it's very likely that there will be a ceasefire. Yes, and otherwise, the dollar, very important topic, the dollar exchange rate should continue to fall, because when the dollar falls, that's actually positive, as it means people want to move out of the dollar and into other assets like Bitcoin or stocks. Right now it's going up because things are calming down due to this supposed ceasefire. So let's take a look at this topic of the ceasefire. Is it really happening now? And here we have to note, Donald Trump this morning declared a ceasefire between Iran and Israel. So he declared it himself. And now it's known that both sides have already violated it. Israel says Iran attacked us first. In response, we bombed or attacked a target in Tehran. Now, many, though not all, Israeli aircraft are on their way home. Is this conflict? What do I have here? 3 rows fired. Is this conflict now over? Good question. I don't really want to go into too much detail about it in these videos. If you're interested in the whole thing, check out my Instagram or TikTok channel, for example. You'll find videos like that there. I've made videos about the counterstrike, what it actually means when this conflict happens, why the oil price is rising, but also about the whole beginning of this entire topic. Peace, and of course also the night updates, or rather last night. Is there a ceasefire now, or is it about how the US carried out attacks? So if you're interested, you can catch up on all of it in shorts. They're really just 2 minutes max, sometimes a bit longer, but you can follow the whole thing in shorts again. Yeah. And this ceasefire that was declared here, of course, had some consequences, because when a ceasefire happens at night, what happens then? Some prices that are online react to it. But if that happens in the middle of the night, Donald Trump isn't stupid. Donald Trump likes to make a lot of moves, like the Midnight Hammer or announcements like a ceasefire. All of that happens when the markets are offline. So the US stock market, she doesn't really care about all the other markets, I'd say, or he just accepts those as collateral. But at the end of the day, he tries to make a lot of moves, whether positive or negative, when the markets are offline. And that's exactly what we saw here. The markets were offline, but these two big candles, that's roughly when the ceasefire was announced. So that was still the profit taking in stocks, I'd say, because Tesla performed so well. SPX went up. Bitcoin also got a bit of a boost here, but this was the ceasefire, or rather the announcement of it, because at first it was said that a ceasefire would be announced, then they would have 6 more hours to finish their operations, then there would be a 12-hour ceasefire, and after that, peace was supposed to follow. Let's wait and see. Let's wait and see. That's what I'll say at this point. And this candle, especially this one here, led to Watcher Guru reporting that within 60 minutes, $50 million in short positions were liquidated. So the people, Wowho, said, hey, let's short Bitcoin, meaning Bitcoin is going down. Yeah, and now you give the bull a little pat because you think it could go back up from here. With this whole topic, you have to observe everything very cautiously because, of course, you don't know where things are headed. What will happen? Will everyone stick to the ceasefire, or will things maybe flare up again in 2 or 3 weeks if Israeli intelligence finds out, they're still enriching uranium and are still on the path to a nuclear bomb? It's all complicated. Before we move on to the other news, I have to tell you that Tangam now has a new summer edition. And it's so beautiful. Oh, I love it. I ordered it for myself. And for girls or for women, I would say it's really something, it's not really my thing, but that's just my personal opinion. You can definitely go for it. Unfortunately, the 20% discount is no longer available, but you can still get the regular 10% off with the code CryptoUlitan% off, whether it's a Casper wallet or one of these here, the one selected here. For example, the US wallet could be one. Yes, that's also on offer. You get a special price on that too, just like with those weird Chinese cats eating noodles, I don't know. In any case, Tangam is the simplest hardware wallet. And of course, you can also buy the ring here. Just click on ring at the top, then you can order now. And there's also a 10% discount if you're interested in the Tangam ring. It's definitely worth grabbing one. Check it out. In my opinion, it's the simplest hardware wallet. With it, you can easily store well over 5,000 cryptocurrencies. I think it's up to 10,000 by now. A whole lot of cryptocurrencies. And always have them with you in your pocket or on the go. And remember, this is your wallet, not your phone. With this card, you can go to any phone in the world and access your wallet. So that means the cards are what's important. The phone can get lost. Of course, it's obvious that people take advantage when the Bitcoin price drops. And there are people who have made extremely good use of it, for example. Even a country, El Salvador. They've doubled down as well. They said they were able to buy another 8 Bitcoin. And now they have 6,215 Bitcoin. Wow! So El Salvador is buying more. And not just El Salvador. Guess who else made another purchase yesterday? Who do you think it was? Of course, Strategy bought more again. They bought 245 Bitcoin for about 26 million, bringing their current holdings to 592,345 Bitcoin. It won't be long before they reach 600,000 Bitcoin. Altogether, that's worth 41.87 billion. Their average Bitcoin purchase price is around 70,681. They're buying at over $105,000 and still have an average Bitcoin price of 70,680. You can imagine how early they got started and how early they began making money or investing money in Bitcoin, which now means that even though they're buying at high prices, their average Bitcoin price is still kept relatively low. So yes, MicroStrategy is doing a good job, or rather, these days it's Strategy B. Then there's another important topic that could also boost the crypto market and maybe even calm Donald Trump down a bit. That is the interest rate cut. Jerome Powell, the head of the Federal Reserve, just made an appearance, and here are his key statements. The Fed is well positioned to wait before cutting interest rates. Tariffs are likely to drive up inflation and put a strain on the economy. So that's a topic they'll be keeping an eye on. There's no immediate signal for an interest rate cut. In other words, they currently see no reason to lower interest rates. Labor market data remains stable. So it's not like they're saying they need to take action there either. Inflation has eased, but remains somewhat elevated. 2% is a target inflation rate that should be reached every year. They're at about 2.4 to 2.6, fluctuating within that range. Jerome Powell is not willing to lower interest rates. And of course, you can imagine what Donald Trump thinks about that. When his goal isn't met or his wish doesn't come true, naturally he starts going off. Too late, Jerome Powell. Today's congressional session did nothing for me, or rather, it didn't accomplish anything. There is no reason not to lower interest rates. Europe has already had 10 rate cuts and we haven't had any no inflation, great economy. And all these statements, of course, are meant to push Jerome Powell or the Fed to act. Hello. Finally lower the interest rates. But it's not that simple. And yes, Jerome Powell is letting them squirm a bit too. Well, the whole topic is and remains a hot one. I've got another hot topic for you now, namely how things could develop for cryptocurrencies in the US and the current sentiment. Plus, these cryptocurrencies probably won't be able to reach a new all-time high anymore. But first, a quick note. There are still people who use the simple exchanges like Coinbase or Bitpanda. The downside of this simplicity is that the fees are very high. For example, someone wanted to invest $1,000 here, and the fees on Coinbase are $27.50. That's crazy. So at the end of the day, he only invests $972.50 instead of $1,000. And that's why it makes sense to use other exchanges as well. The third largest exchange in the world, Bybit, is following the path of MiCA regulation, meaning it will be a regulated exchange in Europe. For this, they have launched a new website, Bybit EU. It will go live on the 1st of July. And if you register now, you'll get a $5 bonus. You can just take that. Just take it. I think if every European user registers there, $5 is actually quite a lot. So as you can see, register here before the 1st of July and get a $5 bonus. You'll also need to transfer everything you have on Bybit.com over to BybitU, meaning you'll have to send it over via cryptocurrency. It's best to convert it to stablecoin first and then transfer it. This is important because EU customers will no longer be able to use Bybit.com starting in October. So make sure to re-register or sign up anew at BybitU. That will be the exchange Europeans will use when it comes to Bybit, which is the third largest exchange in the world, BybitU. Check it out. You'll find the link below in the video description, and then you get those $5. At least there's a little something for re-registering. I don't think it's much of a compensation for the effort, but it's something after all. I like to use sites like sentiment barometers and so on. And CoinMarketCap actually has something like that, a sentiment barometer. What's the current sentiment? How are things looking right now? Pessimistic sentiment, official Trump, that is, the Trump coin. It's showing a very pessimistic, fully bearish outlook here with 45.7% of all voters, those who vote here. And then we see here VeChain has climbed all the way to the top, although in recent days it was also CAS that was back at the top. So we can see there's actually a bullish sentiment for many cryptocurrencies here. But is that really the case? Can they really go up? And then there's another indicator that's always really striking to observe. Namely, if you take this one, I'll put the link for you down below. I think it's a really good tool. So if you look here at how far cryptocurrencies are from their all-time high, here is the all-time high. When was that? For example, with Bitcoin, it was on May 22, 2025. That wasn't all that long ago. Bitcoin is 5.8% away from that. Ethereum had its all-time high on the 10th of November 2021. That was a long time ago, and it's 50.5% away from that. You can also sort the whole thing by saying, look, which ones are the least far away from their all-time high? These ones here, for example, are the least far away. Those are, of course, the stable coins, but also the FAST token and the BUIDL, the BlackRock USD Institutional Digital Liquidity Fund, which is also currently at its all-time high. So it's the least far away as well. If we now scroll all the way down or simply click on it again, we can see that these here over 90%, up to Cosmos, ICP, Phil, Argo, DOT, TIA, VET, WorldCoin, CRO, Atom, ETC, Nebraska, AR, and Optimism are that far away. They are about, I've scrolled down a bit further now, they are about 90% away from their all-time high. Even ICP on May 10th, 2021, over 4 years ago's all-time high price was $700. They are now 99.3% below that. And now you have to consider, will these ever reach a new all-time high again? Will they rise again in the bull run when everything is going up? Absolutely. But if they do reach a new all-time high, it's going to be pretty tough. And that is, of course, an interesting list. As I said, I'll put the link down below for you. You can compare the whole thing for yourselves. If we now look at the middle, the midfield, here at 50%. 50%, we're obviously on the way there, 50%. Is it realistic for a token to double again? Yes, in a crazy bull run, sure, but it's hard to judge, you have to say. Solana, Ethereum, the BitGet token. Then we also have SUI and others there. It starts to look better again. Because we're moving down the list here, the stablecoins, of course, aren't far from their all-time highs. Wrap Bitcoin and Bitcoin are pretty much the same. Also the Wrap BTC from Coinbase and several others, but also USDC and DAI, they're currently off their all-time highs because they were once traded above $1. Yes, otherwise we see that many cryptocurrencies aren't in some cases that far from their all-time highs. I'd say among the better known ones, it's really XRP and Tron here that are about roughly 36% of their all-time highs. But it's just very, very difficult to put all of this into perspective because you don't know where things are headed. But this list just shows once again that there are cryptocurrencies that are so far from their all-time highs that people don't even need to talk about them ever reaching those highs again. I think with ICP we can really agree on that. I think everyone sitting here, also Filecoin, will have a very, very hard time ever reaching $236 again, when right now it's worth $2.29. It's very difficult also for Algorand, Polkadot. I've already said a lot about Polkadot on this topic, as well as Celestia, VeChain. It's really a shame. They were actually promising cryptocurrencies for a while, but then the hype died down dramatically. Finally, a brief topic. In the US, things could continue to look up for cryptocurrencies because there is a legal framework being proposed regarding cryptocurrencies. That could be interesting because Senators Lummis and Scott are currently preparing a draft bill for a legal framework on digital assets, meaning cryptocurrencies in general. Of course, both of them are mainly focused on Bitcoin, but cryptocurrencies are automatically included here. So digital assets could get a legal framework in the US and could then, for example, be used for invoices like government invoices, but also for other purposes. And this whole thing is an exciting topic that could come our way in the next few weeks and could trigger a bullish signal. Conclusion of the video, we hope to see a ceasefire in Israel, or rather between Israel and Iran. Will it really be upheld? I'm very, very skeptical about that, just my personal opinion. But as I said, check out my shorts on TikTok, Instagram, and of course here on YouTube. But very few people watch them on YouTube. I think on YouTube, people are more likely to promote their own channel rather than make informational shorts. We see that crises are also being taken advantage of, for example, by El Salvador and Strategy B, although B always buys anyway. In any case, crises can be used to your advantage. I don't even want to know how much money was moved around again, or how much people who bet on a World War III made when prices briefly dropped, and who might now have had their short positions liquidated, because it doesn't look like that's going to happen after all. Let me know in the comments what you think about this whole topic, and also share your opinion on this question. Can these cryptocurrencies that are down over 90% or 90% of their all-time high ever reach a new all-time high again? Write it in the comments. With that, I want to say thank you for watching and see you in the next video.